Pablo Escobar, from poverty to a cocaine empire and a tragic fall. The childhood of a man who would change the world. Unexpectedly, in 1949, a child was born in the Colombian town of Rio Negro to a poor family. This child was Pablo Emilio Escobar, the son of a teacher and a schoolmaster, living in simple conditions, but with limitless ambition. From a young age, he showed a strong personality and sharp intelligence, but he chose a dangerous path to the top. He used to tell his friends, "I will become a millionaire before I turn 30. The road to crime. From theft to drug trafficking. Escobar began his criminal career by stealing tombstones and reselling them, then moved on to smuggling cigarettes and stolen cars. But in the late 1960s, a new lucrative trade emerged in Colombia: cocaine. Escobar saw an invaluable opportunity and entered this world without hesitation. In the 1970s, he started smuggling small amounts of cocaine to the United States through secret airports and Colombia's jungles. As American demand for this white powder increased, Escobar's operations expanded rapidly, eventually establishing what would later become the world's largest drug empire, the Medellin cartel. The empire of evil. Pablo becomes the king of cocaine. Escobar was not just a drug dealer, he was a brilliant businessman. He began cultivating coca plants on a massive scale, built secret laboratories in the forests, and started shipping tons of cocaine to the U.S. daily. At the peak of his power, 80% of the world's cocaine came from his cartel, making him one of the richest men in the world, with a fortune exceeding $30 billion. But how did he hide all this money? Simply put, Escobar couldn't store his money in banks, so he buried it in farms, hid it in walls, and even in the wilderness, to the extent that rats ate millions of dollars each year. The hidden ruler of Colombia. Money wasn't enough for Pablo. He wanted power. In the 1980s, he decided to enter politics and ran for the Colombian parliament. But he wasn't just an ordinary candidate. He used his influence and money to corrupt anyone who stood in his way. His motto was simple yet terrifying: plata o plomo, meaning silver or lead, implying you either accept the bribe or face death. When the Minister of Justice tried to expose his crimes, Escobar had him assassinated in cold blood. When the Colombian government pressed for his extradition to the United States, he launched a bloody war that killed thousands, including judges, journalists, and presidential candidates. Madness. Pablo declares war on an entire nation. By the late 1980s, Escobar had become the most dangerous man in the world. He was behind the bombing of a passenger plane in 1989, killing more than 100 people, simply because he believed one of his enemies was on board. He also bombed the National Intelligence Headquarters in Bogotá, killing dozens. But international pressure was mounting, and the Colombian government could no longer ignore him. Under U.S. pressure, the authorities launched a massive manhunt with the help of the CIA and special military forces. The final escape: the fortress that didn't protect the king. After years on the run, Escobar agreed to surrender, but on one condition: he would be imprisoned in a prison he built himself. And so, he constructed a luxurious prison called La Catedral, which wasn't just a prison, but a lavish palace featuring a soccer field, a resort, and the finest food and drinks. He ran his empire freely from within, but the government couldn't tolerate this humiliation for long. And when they tried to transfer him to a real prison, Escobar escaped, triggering the biggest manhunt in Colombia's history. The tragic end: the fall of the king of cocaine. Escape wasn't easy. His pursuit lasted for 16 months, with security forces tracking him step by step. On December 2, 1993, He was finally located in a modest house in Medellin. Realizing he was surrounded, he attempted to flee across the rooftops, but snipers were waiting. He was shot 3 times, with one bullet piercing his skull directly. Escobar collapsed on a rooftop, drenched in his own blood, as special forces stood around him, capturing their victory in photographs. The legacy of a man who changed Colombia. Forever, when news of his death spread, thousands of poor families attended his funeral, mourning the man they saw as a hero, not a criminal. Despite his brutality, he built schools, hospitals, and stadiums, and provided food for many impoverished people. But the undeniable truth is, Escobar was nothing more than a ruthless drug kingpin who caused the deaths of thousands and plunged Colombia into chaos. After his death, the Medellin cartel collapsed, and drug trafficking shifted to new rivals, but no one ever reached his level of absolute power. Thus ended the story of a boy who started in poverty, rose to become the most dangerous man in the world, and ultimately met his demise on a simple,